I'm Julia Anna Gospodarou. I'm an architect and fine art photographer. I'm working mainly with black and white and generally architecture, even if I like many other subjects. These are closer to my heart, and probably also because I'm an architect and I feel them more intensely. This is what I'm also known for my black and white work, for my long exposure work. Even if I don't reject other kinds of photography, of course, and also color and everything else. This is my style and my signature style that I'm known for. Other than creating photographs, I also like to share my knowledge, what I like, the way that I'm creating my images, the way I'm working, and the things that I think about photography, the way that they help me, and everything. So I like to create tutorials and share them on my site. Also, I'm organizing and teaching workshops around the world. I just had a workshop in Athens 2 weeks ago where DxO was also present. They were invited and they showed us a lot of things about the software. I'm going to teach a workshop in a few days in Chicago. Great city for architecture photography. When I taught another workshop a couple of years ago, but it's always great to come back. Something else that I'm very proud of is the book that I wrote with Joel Chinchilla, my co-author, a book called From Basics to Fine Art, Black and White Photography, more than 400 pages about black and white, about architecture, and generally. A book that is considered by many as one of the best books on black and white photography, and it has become a bestseller. You can find it on my site. If you want to know more, you can find many other things about myself, about my work on my site. Let me actually just go there and show you a few things. Maybe we could turn off the camera and I'll come back to talk to you again at the end of my presentation, and I hope you will enjoy the webinar. Let me go and show you a little bit on my site. This is my site. My site is actually my name. As I like to joke, if you know how to spell my name, you'll get to my site. Not many people know how to spell my name. Demarcus was very good at this. So this is my site. You can find there my photography. You can find different things about myself, about what I create and my generally photography activities. I'm working in black and white, and what I try to do is black and white fine art photography. What this means is the difference between normal photography or traditional photography or simply photography and fine art photography is that besides talking about a subject, you also talk about yourself. So you use these tones of these shades of gray to express not only what you see in the outside world, but also how you feel about what you see. You put yourself into the image, and this is how you have to think about fine art photography. It's your vision and your personal experience and everything coming into and going into the creation of the image. And if someone knows how to read these images that you create, they will understand actually who you are and how you feel. And this is something very powerful if you manage to convey it, because it's not only an image, it's not only recording something that exists, but it's also telling a story, and telling a story in a personal way, communicating something. This is very important in fine art photography, communicating something to the viewers. Let me tell you a few things about architectural photography and fine art architectural photography, because there's a difference. When you work with architecture, the first thing that you think about, either you're an architect that is designing or a photographer that is photographing architecture, you work with volumes and you work with light, because the volumes are the shape, giving you the shape, the physical shape of a building, and the light is the one that is going to show you. So the volumes maybe the functional part, the light is going to show you the beauty of the subject of the building. And these are the two main things that you have to have in mind when you work with architecture photography. Volumes, when you talk about volumes, you talk about angles, you talk about the way you see the object, you have to think about them as three-dimensional objects. You have to have in mind that even if you move with just a step, you're going to see something different that is going to show maybe a totally different facet of the object that you have in front of you. When you talk about fine art, architecture, photography, the one thing that is coming into play and is different is your vision. Is practically is yourself. You as an individual with your personal style, with your personal preferences, your nature, everything is going to show into the image. This is what I'm thinking. I think that in a holistic way, and I think that in art, generally, if we do it, honestly, we are going to show our whole self and whatever we know about the world and about the experience that we have. So vision is about what you want to convey, that has to do not so much with the subject but with yourself. And this is important because two different persons may choose two different angles of the same subject, or they can choose two different ways of lighting it or of processing it. And if you go deeper and think about it and analyze it, you will see that this has to do with each person's vision and each person's personal style and personal experiences and everything. So this is vision. Vision is not just visualizing, as Ansel Adams was saying, the final result, the print. Is also putting something of yourself, finding a way of translating your inner self into an image, or if you were a writer, into a novel, or if you were a musician, into a melody, a tune. So this stands with all arts, but since we are talking about photography, we are trying to express ourselves in images. So it's ourselves put in the image and expressed through the subject that we are showing. If you, as an idea now of using light and volumes, this is a before and after of one of my images. An image, this is a building by Philip Johnson, the Pennzoil place in Houston, and very impressive, interesting, fascinating building, very difficult to shoot, because it's such a complex building. And you can see how the image was when I captured it, how it became. So this is what I'm putting in this image. If you see that the light has changed, so this is me, this is myself put into the image. If you work on this image, each of you may get a different result. And you may work with light in a totally different way because you may want to emphasize something else that has to do with how you feel about the subject, how you feel about the scene, how your whatever you're carrying with yourself as experience and everything. So you can see that the difference is quite big from what I had and what I created. And this is actually fine art photography, to introduce something new, to change the image so it looks like yourself. Which brings us from vision to Visionography. Whoever has read the book or has heard me talking about this knows that Visionography is a term. I'm calling it the new fine art photography, and it actually is not photography, but something born from photography. That I try to, at some point, I was understand that I'm not doing exactly photography, because I'm not ruled so much by my subject and by the light that I'm capturing. So I wanted to find a name for this thing that I was doing, and I came with this as the best way of expressing what I'm doing. And what I'm doing actually is removing the light and not being, as I could say, the slave of light, but removing the light and replacing it with my vision. So I know that I can do anything in a photograph. I don't care what I see there. What I care is what I can do with it. Photograph is basically just a canvas for me, a basis on which I'm building. I'm building by using my vision, by putting my vision into creating this image. And what it helps me do this is my software. And this is where we put everything together and we move from analog photography to digital photography, from being ruled by light, a lot by our subject, to going digital and being able, because we have this fantastic tool that is our software that we can use to do absolutely everything we want to our photograph. So this is a tremendous difference between photography as it was seen in the analog era and what we are doing in the digital era. I mean, I think many of us don't even realize what a powerful tool we have in our hands by using the processing software. I know many people are scared of using their software. They think that they shouldn't manipulate the image that they are creating, and I agree with this. If you're shooting journalism, if you want to record the scene the way it is and not lie, as you could say. But when you create fine art photography, this and your vision are the best tools to create something original and not be the slave of your subject, of the light, of everything else. You can see more about the Visionography on my site on Visionography.com. Also, from basics to fine art in the book that I'm analyzing this with, I'm giving examples. You can read everything about it there. And also, if you're on Facebook, there's a group called Visionography, the new black and white fine photography, where Visionographers are coming and posting their work. You can see a lot of good work there, so we can go there and join this group and come share your work and learn about fine art photography, about visionography and black and white. Let me show you, this is another one of my images, and actually I'm starting with this, but I want to show you the entire series that I created, named Fluid Time, a series I created with subjects from Chicago, and where I'm using the tilt shift blur. This is the main thing I'm using in this series, and this is a technique that is not so much used in architecture. It's something counterintuitive to work with blur in architecture when you are after sharpness, and this is what everyone knows. For the first thing that they tell us when we work with architecture is look at the details, be very sharp, be very everything has to be clear and perfect. And while I agree with this, I think that especially when you want to make a parallel between these two and create an emotion, you can work also with a technique that is not very used in. I'm working here with a tilt shift blur. You can find any other technique, but the thing is that this is a good way of expressing something different by using a technique that is not normally used in that kind of photography to convey something new. And what I wanted to convey in this series and why I worked with tilt shift blur is because I wanted with this blur to show that different worlds can come into contact and they can communicate with each other, even if normally they wouldn't communicate. So, like for instance, two buildings that are so stable and so immobile that they couldn't communicate with each other, but by adding this blur and by personifying these buildings and making them have the buildings wouldn't communicate anyway with each other, but I'm just using them as symbols, and I'm thinking that this could be people that are communicating with each other by means of this tilt shift blur. So just a few words about my vision behind this series, so you understand that everything I do and everything that fine art photography means is related with an idea that we have, an intention that we have with an image we create. Another image from another series, Out to Black series, where I was trying to go to the extreme with darkness to make to see how far I can go before photography is not even possible anymore, and we remove almost all the light that we have in the image. And this was because I wanted to emphasize this sharp, bright light. This was my main idea in this series. So I wanted to surround it by darkness and make this light emerge. And these are the steps I did in processing this image from the raw image, converting it to black and white, and working on it, and shaping my volumes by using light and by using different tools that I find in my software, the software that I'm using. This is the entire tool, this entire series, Ode to Black or Black Hole, multi-awarded series that I'm very happy with it, and it expresses. I don't have the time now, but maybe at some point I will tell more about the story behind this series, because there's a story. Everything is related. Everything has something in behind, and this is my vision. This is very important to have something behind the images that you create, so you can put yourself in these images. Now, photography drawing is the method that I'm working with, that I created so I can work with. And as I was telling you, use different techniques that you can find in different other arts, or generally techniques that are not used always to or not used as a default for doing what you do. What I did here was, because I was drawing for a long time, and I was very familiar with how to create three-dimensional shapes, and how to look at architecture, how to look at objects by drawing, by using light and shadow in drawing. I was drawing in black and white. I used this almost instinctively. This came at some point in my processing, and when I was trying to understand how I can work with volumes and make them look more two-dimensional, because you don't get this by just capturing the image. So I try to apply this technique of rendering that I'm working in drawing to photography, and the principle of working with light, how light behaves with volumes, and which parts are lit, which parts are in the shadows, how to apply light and shadows on the volumes. And you can see here a few examples of, you can see the parallelism here, how I'm working. For instance, I'm drawing an image, and I'm just adding shadows here because I want to show this shape. There's an entire science that is built around play with light and shadow on volumes. And this is practically what I'm doing in photography also, but with different tools, and the tools are my processing software. But this is practically the same principle of rendering objects to make them look three-dimensional, and to insist where I need to insist, and create light when I need to create light, or remove light when I need to remove light. And this is something that only the software and manipulating my images can give me. Otherwise, if I just go out and shoot an image and just put it out there, it's not going to have this richness of feeling, because this is the feelings that I'm adding to the image. But you can see that by this comparison, how light is acting in both cases, and this is the same, and that this is the same. So you don't need to learn to draw, but you can find and read on the internet, for instance, the principle of drawing, the principle of shaping light on volumes. Now let me walk you through one of my images and show you the stages, the phases of processing the image, just a little bit quickly, and we will insist afterwards more in showing you in the demonstration. This is another one of my images from the Fluid Time series, which image was shot with DxO Blur. It's a combination of more than one images, because I wanted to intensify this blur, and I had to blend multiple blurs. I don't know if this has been done before. Anyway, it's the way I found to express my vision, and maybe it's first time it's done. But for instance, if you blend images to make an image sharper, this is the opposite. That I blended images so I get more blur in my image. So this is what I started from, one of the images, because I have more than one, and you can see I wanted to insist on this clock and on this tower to be sharp, and the rest is blurred. One thing here that relates me to DxO is that this image has been shot with a tilt shift, but the tilt shift, probably you know, that is mainly used to keep the verticals parallel and vertical. Well, in some cases, when you are too close to your subject and you can't always be far enough because you don't have physically the possibility, sometimes you need, even with the tilt shift, to have converging verticals. So there you can use the software to straighten them. So you use the tilt shift for straightening part of this verticals, and you can use the DxO ViewPoint, which is the best that you can get for this, to straighten the rest of the verticals. And I got to this image after straightening it. Straightforward black and white conversion, which was my base before starting to shape the light on these volumes. And you see that everything is flat at this moment, and everything I needed, I added after I added in post-processing afterwards the light. You can see here the steps in my processing. So you can see from I started with this. This is a blended image. That these are the three images. No, this is a blended. The three images that I work with. I kept from the image exactly the part that I was interested in. So I have the sharpness where I needed it, and the blur where I needed it. And this is how I went. You can see that I'm gradually adding light and shadow on the image and make it eventually look like what I had in mind, which is the last here. This is a process that can take hours or days, or it's not something easy to do. Don't expect this to be done in a few hours or in a few days. It depends on how difficult the image you work with is, but it's generally a time-consuming process, as everything in art is, because think about the painter, how many hours they spend, how many days they spend to create a painting from the beginning till the end. It's something like this. We are not just shooting, we are also creating photography. So this is the end result once again. So you can see that I have a balance of light, and this is what I'm trying to do, to prioritize, to subordinate everything to one main, my subject, one main part of the image, and everything is related. And now I'm going to show you, make a quick pass through some of my other images before and after, to see how they started and how they ended. This is an image from Berlin, the Bauhaus Museum of Walter Gropius. It's a very well-known building. This is in Athens. Some skyscrapers, actually the only skyscraper in Athens. We don't have too tall buildings, so we don't build higher than the Acropolis. This is the after. You can see also one of my most well-known images with the Calatrava Bridge and something else from Berlin. Another one with the same bridge, and I will show you something more in this image later. So this will be a few examples so you have an idea, and I'm going back to pointing you to the book. If you need more to know more about everything, about the philosophical side, the practical side, the theoretical side of black and white fine art photography, to read more about Visionography, photography, drawing, Me and Joel, we try to cover everything that can be said about black and white fine art photography. The book is an ebook for the moment. We are working on the printed version. We don't have a date for it yet, but at some point we're going to make it. Also, if you want to know more, as I told you, my site is welcoming you at any moment to come and read tutorials and see my images, get inspiration and everything. What I liked about DxO, and I will show you some of the best things that you can do with it, and that I like very much. Why I like it? Because it's French. Just a joke, but actually I have a big admiration and respect for French culture. This is not why I like DxO, but this is just as a trivia, just a new idea that something I want to share. I like it because I can do my work with it, because it's easy to use, because it helps me in my work, because it can take me from my idea to realizing it in reality. So what I want to show you a little bit before starting with everything else is some presets I created for the film pack, for the DxO film pack. Film pack is software created, a plugin created for recreating a film look in your images, and it was created by DxO to recreate in the beginning the look of black and white film. So it is very good at doing this. And I created a few presets, a series of presets actually, that is called Dark City, and it has a Bright City counterpart also. And I want to show you how a few of these images are looking with these presets. There's a Dark City. One of them is called Dark City, simply Dark City. There's Dark City Soft, which has a softer look, more dreamy one. This is Dark City Soft Blur, which adds even more dreamy look. A tinted version of it with a blue tint in it, which is Dark City Blue. A Bright City, because if there's dark, we have to have bright. It's light and shadow. They are working together. You can't have one without the other. A color version, and vintage, more playful version to it. And you can see a few more images, how they look in with all these presets applied. This doesn't mean that you have to just push a button and create this, but it's a starting point, and you can work with the intensity of these presets, and they can give you ideas. A preset is not meant to create an image just by using it. You just push a button and you create the image. This is not a vision. This is not final photography, but you can start from it. You can combine presets. You can. The thing is to use every tool you have to create what you need to create. I mean, everything can be used in one way or another. You can use it 5%, or you can use it at 100% and take everything you can from it. This is an image shot in Houston. This is a place called the Chevron Ring, which is a very interesting ring through which you can see all these buildings. A building in Frankfurt. Just as an idea, there are many presets in the DxO film pack that you can use. This is a tip that I recommend you to look at them and get ideas and tweak them, and then go to Photoshop and add some more effects. And actually, the idea is not to create something just in one application, because you get the whole potential of an image if you use all the tools that you have at your discretion, at your in your hands. So this is one of the pieces of the advice that I would have if someone asked me which software to use. I would say use every software that can give something to your image and combine them. This is the best thing that you can do to create better photography. Let me go there now and show you. Let me first tell you, and then I will show on some images. There are a few things that I like about the DxO software. Actually, what you work with when you work with DxO, there are three pieces of software. There's one that is called OpticsPro, for the ones that don't know about it, which is something like Lightroom, except that it doesn't have the local adjustments. So you have a raw converter, it looks at your image and does the adjustment that you need. It just, you don't have the possibility to go on different places and add some effects. So it's a general converter. But the things that it does are so good that for these things, it's way better than Lightroom, for instance. You should, for instance, if you work with Lightroom and have OpticsPro, you have to combine them to work with both of them and get the best of each side. And there are a few things I'm just going to say, tell you which are, and then I show you a little bit. That's the denoise that OpticsPro has. There's something else that's called smart lighting, which is adding filling light in your image, but it's doing it in such a natural way that you won't see noise in the darks or things like this that you can see when you're filling light. And there's a clear view, which is dealing with atmospheric hazing. It's very good for images that, for landscape images, for cityscapes, generally for images that are not of a very close object, but when you have more of the scene in front of you. The lens softness is something like a sharpener, but it's even better. I will show you. And there's another feature that I like, which is color rendering, which is dealing with the color, which would give you a better base for black and white photography. And OpticsPro is actually the hub for all the other plugins for ViewPoint and Film Pack. So you can access them from OpticsPro, which is something very good and very easy to work with. But if you work in Photoshop, I would say just do in OpticsPro the things that OpticsPro does the best, and then go to Photoshop and access the other plugins from Photoshop, because you have more, better, wider interface and have more ways of working with it. Now, one of the things, and this is something that is unique for as for this kind of software of perspective correction, is the viewpoint. And I have a few images here. I chose a few images from my archive, where I can show you what this program does and how easily it does. Many people ask me, what do you use to straighten verticals, or what do you use to correct perspective in an architecture photograph? And I would say that the most easy to work with and the most direct is the viewpoint, which is just pushing a button, which I'm not recommending generally just to push a button, but this is about correcting something and not wasting time in doing it another way. Let me start actually with doing this, with opening this image in OpticsPro, and I will show you from there how to work with viewpoint. It's something that I want to start with it because it applies to architecture photography, and it's very useful and very easy to do. So we are now opening a raw file in OpticsPro, which means that OpticsPro is going to look at it and make the adjustment that it thinks are needed. So it gives us the best result. And the very good thing about it is that what DxO is doing is based on studying and knowing exactly what's happening in the camera and in the lens. Because if you know, I didn't know in the beginning, but I found out afterwards when I was wondering how these things are working so well, is that DxO started as a company that was studying cameras and lenses. So they have a fantastic database of each camera lens that exists, most of them at least, and the combination between them. So they can understand what went wrong in the image and can make a correction based on how the camera is. And this is why it's so good, and not just a logarithm or a recreation on a general idea as you get from Lightroom, for instance, when you deal with these things. And let me first start by showing you the viewpoint. You can have, you see the interface here. I'm not going to go too much into this because this is not a technical webinar. You can find on the DxO site a lot of material about how to work with this software. I just want to show you a few things that I like and that I'm using and that we can work with very nicely. And you'll see how easy it is. Okay, because let me take this. The easiest way to do with to work with perspective correction is to work with verticals. So you want to straighten verticals, and what you have to do here is just to take these guides and place them on two verticals in your image, whichever you think are more representative, and you can find longer verticals so it's easier for the program to know what it's doing. And just press preview or press apply, whatever you want, and you will get immediately, without doing anything else, you will get the vertical corrected. And you see that this is something that happened in half a second. And you have two ways of dealing with this. Is either you fully correct it, or you correct it in a natural way, which is not 100%. You still have a small convergence, but the image looks a little bit more natural. And you can tweak this and tell to the program which is your natural. So this is something that is very easy to do. Another thing that is interesting, if you work with, for instance, this is when you have a square surface and you want to see it frontally. But I just want to show you something that is very interesting. You probably won't do this ever, but it's funny. So you can see what you can do with this, how you can change the perspective with this program. And just don't laugh when you see the result. So this is what you can do. It's like you're looking at this image. If you can look at the comparison, you're looking at this image from a totally different point of view. You shot this image like this, and then you see it like this. I mean, it's crazy. in the good sense of the word. Word is crazy. And then there's another one that you can work with. The correction tool is one correction that's more complex and works when you have more complex perspectives, and you can work with verticals, horizontals, and different other things. So you can play with it yourself. I just wanted to show you this thing. Something else that I want to show you, but let's go to actually to another image and start with, because this I want to show you a long exposure image. This is the raw file from one of my images, and let me show you a little bit what I'm doing. For instance, I'm going to Lightroom to work on it. Sometimes I'm doing some things in Lightroom, some tweaks, and some small adjustments, or I'm adding keywords. Sometimes I'm cropping, not always, because I prefer to crop in Photoshop and know what I'm doing. I'm cleaning the spots. You can see that I have quite a few spots here. Maybe I will work a little bit with Lightroom, but for some things I would go to. I would prefer to go to DxO. And let me show you this one actually that I cleaned the spots. So we have the raw file, just we don't have the spots, the dust spots. And let me go to, you can reach DxO from Lightroom as a plugin, OpticsPro from Lightroom as a plugin. So this is very practical to work with. Let me open it. I really open it because I didn't. And you will see, I will show you the before and after, so you can see a few things that you don't even need to do anything, and the program is going to do it for you. One of the things that I like very much is the denoise. So there are two kinds of denoising an image. Let's go on to one. I see the dust spots are still there anyway. So this is the first denoising that the program is applying, which is already very good if you compare with what we had. This is the noise that we had in the beginning. But there's another one that is a prime. The prime is something, you won't see it so much here, but if you have very long exposure, if you have high ISO, things like this, this is something that is going to actually blow your mind. The difference between what you have and what you get. I will show you this at the end when I'm exporting, because I'm exporting it to Photoshop. This has to, you can see it if you export the image because it's a heavy processing. It's done, so I'll do it at the end. But I want to show you a few other things that are very interesting and very good for architecture photography. One of them is the smart lighting that I was telling you. It's filling light in images that are underexposed or have some problems. And this image is not very, doesn't have so many problems, but it still can use some filling light. So the smart lighting is already changing a little bit the balance of light in my image and makes it look clearer. Another thing that you should work with, if you work especially with long views, is DxO Clear View, which is, it's not very useful here, and anyway you can tweak it, you can go less, but when you have a cityscape or something that is in the distance, it's going to show a lot more clear with this. Another thing that is very interesting is the, and that you're going to like, is the lens softness. Let me find it, because there are so many things. I like to have my everything open, so I'm not, I don't click too much. But this means that I have to search for it. Okay, and then it's after. Okay, it's right after the noise. So this lens softness. Let's go a little bit closer, and you can see if I take it out and add it in, you will see that the softness that you have in the raw file is already gone, and it's like a sharpener. Let's go a little bit at 200% and compare. Okay, this is what it was in the beginning, and this is only the lens sharpness. It's not sharpening, it's just analyzing the image on the sensor and having all this information that I told you that DxO has about lenses and sensors. They can get it right where the camera didn't get right. But it's more natural, and there are no chromatic aberration or artifacts. This is a very good thing. And then you can add, you can use sharpening, you can sharpen even more the image if you need to, and other things. But as a first step, this is something natural that is done to the image by analyzing the sensor and everything. Another very good thing to have in mind is for working with color is to use the color, and actually you have much more things that you can work with. The color rendering is giving you different ways of rendering the color depending on different cameras or different sensors, and you can play with this and see which is the one that is working best for the image. And I like to use this because it can give you different different ways of rendering the image, and they may work better or much better for your image. So this would be more or less the main things that I like, and I don't think that in this way you can find them somewhere else. Then there are some presets also that you can apply, or just look at them to have an idea and tweak them afterwards. There are color presets, there are black and white presets. This is another nice one, nice feature to have and work with. And also you can access the DxO film pack, which is black and white converter. We can access it from here also, if you want to do something here before going to Photoshop or somewhere else. So at this moment, let's say that we did whatever we had to do. We didn't do much because we didn't need so much to do here. But so we can go to the prime and take advantage of this denoising tool. We have to export the image. So we export it, for instance, let's go and export it to Photoshop. So we go directly to Photoshop and work from there. You can choose here where you want to export it, with what quality you need, and all the things that you can tweak. And then you press export, and it's going to take 1 minute, a couple of minutes. It depends on the image also, how big it is and how many things you need to do. And it's going to open it in Photoshop. So you can go from there on and work on the image. So you don't even need to go back to Lightroom if you don't need. So I would say that you start working in Lightroom, doing a few things that you know that you can do better in Lightroom, like cleaning the image and maybe cropping it and things like this. Then you go to OpticsPro to take care of the noise, to do all these correcting things that DxO can do related to lenses and everything. Also, you can work with light and work with exposure and everything. So at this moment, we went to Photoshop, and what I wanted to show you was comparing what we started with in Lightroom. For instance, let's go to very close zoom. Let's go to 400 here, and you can see here, I don't know how to make a comparison between Lightroom and Photoshop, but I'm just going to switch between them and see how well, without doing anything, this denoising feature, the prime, has worked. You can see Photoshop, you can see Lightroom. This is what we had in the beginning, and this is where we got. And this is not only because of the denoising, but because also the lens sharpness, because the lens softness feature that has sharpened the image, and then the noise has been removed. So these are things that are absolutely, should absolutely try and see how you can work with them. And now let me show you this image, because we don't have so much time left, so I can take some questions afterwards. Let me show you this image. This is one of my images, and I want to show you a few things about my processing workflow, so you can see how I'm working with DxO also from inside Photoshop, and generally what I'm doing. Now, this is what, for instance, one of the images. If I have, generally I'm working on the color version. I'm denoising it. I'm sharpening. I'm doing whatever it has to do. So the color version is practically perfect before converting to black and white. And then let's close everything here so I can show you. This was the color version, the way that I got to before starting to work with, to convert it. And in this case, you don't need to correct too much the perspective, but in a way, it's interesting because, for instance, you can work with, you can use viewpoint also to enhance the converging effect. It's not only to create to straighten verticals, but also you can use it to enhance converging objects. Okay, so in this case, let me show you how you can actually emphasize the converging effect. If you want to, if you go on the opposite side, then you would go if you wanted to create straighter verticals. You can have actually, no, it wasn't enough. Let's see, for instance, if we go like this. So you see, you can work with it and do exactly the opposite to make your object more convergent. If you're, for instance, shooting up to the sky and you want to have even more of this converging effect, this is something to keep in mind as a tip for working with viewpoint. Not only to straighten verticals, but also to enhance the converging effect. And also you see here that you have, when you work with from inside Photoshop with a full plugin, you have this is a very good thing, the loop here that you can see, and you can see exactly where to place this guide, so you don't make a mistake. And you can play with the arrows and move it a little bit if your mouse or your tablet is not very accurate. So this was something that I wanted to share with you because it's interesting, and you can use it. Now let me see. Let me show you. For instance, yes, this was the previous one. Okay, and I will show you how to convert to black and white, how to have a base, because actually, as I was showing you in the beginning, previously, that I have a final color that I'm happy with, and what I do afterwards is, if I want to work on, if I have a more complex volume, this is not very complex volume, but even this, you can think about working on each of these surfaces in a different way, and having darker processing or brighter processing, playing with light. One of the first things that you have to do is to make selections of all the surfaces that you want to work with. For instance, here I have the selections of this image. If you see the masks, you can see that I'm selecting the sky. I'm selecting each surface of the object I'm working with. If I do like this, you'll see. And everything that I'm going to work with differently is working with light. And after this step that I'm doing while working with a color image, I'm going to convert it to black and white. And I'm going to make a few conversions. I'm starting with 2 because I'm generally processing differently the sky and the subject that I have, building or whatever, landscape. So I will need 2 conversions to do, and then blend them together, which is what will give me the result. So I will make some copies of this layer because I want to work with it differently. And I open afterwards my black and white converter, and I can choose. For instance, I have my presets. I have a dark preset, I have a bright one, I have different other presets I can work with. Or I can just go and modify this image, and go to modify here, which takes you from the presets part to the modifying part, and go to black and white, and start looking at the black and white film and choosing one of them. There are a lot of films. You can have a look and see what each of them does. One of the ones that I like is the Ilford pan, or the Ilford, the 400 or the 100, or some other film that is very well known is Kodak Timex 4000 or other. You shouldn't be scared by the grain, which is the ISO, which is what you see here, because you can play with the grain, you can tweak it. Even if you go to 200, you have the grain, you can work with it and lower it, and you have also, you can tweak the intensity of the film. There are many things that you can do to create a different look on the image. So if I go, for instance, to max 100, is going to be softer, and then I can work with the grain. A good thing working with the grain is that you can choose whatever grain you want. You don't stick with one kind of film. You can go and add some other different grain, and also the grain can be tweaked. You have more or less intensity. And a very nice feature that I like and is very useful, you can choose between a 35mm grain or medium format, which is softer, or large format, which is even softer, or even a custom that you can add as big or small grain you want. In the beginning, I'm not adding too much grain because I want the image to be softer when I'm working with it, but I will add lately. And then I can work with the exposure. I can tweak it and see, for instance, if I'm processing this image for the sky, I would like to be something darker. So I'm going to lower the exposure. Maybe I will intensify the black tones a little bit. I'm taking also down a little bit white, the bright ones. I'm generally not adding other things like texture, but you can do it in at the end. Sometimes I would also add some blur in the sky, because it's giving a softer aspect of the image, and which I'm not going to do if I work on the building. But the sky is better to be softer. So this would be my image, my starting image, as for working with the sky. So this is my conversion. There are different other things that you can do with it, and play with different other things, starting from a preset and then going to other added effects. So this would be one of them. The other one can be converted in a different way, because I need a different effect from it. Then I'm going to blend these two by using my selections. For instance, let's make a very quick, or just use one of them, one of these ones that I was working with. For instance, let's see that these are the two that we have. And if I add a selection here, and I'm blending these two images, I will work with the sky from one and the object that I'm working with from the other. This is the base, but you can do this in many ways, and working with many surfaces. And then what you do is to go and work on each surface separately by selecting it and starting to work on it with touch and burn, with gradients, with different, whatever tool you're more familiar with. The idea is to think about how objects are rendered in reality. So you make an image as realistic as it is and create depth. So this would be my, in a few words, because this is not so much about what I'm doing in Photoshop, but what I'm doing in DxO. This is what I'm doing generally when I'm working with my image. And by doing this, and let me just show you a little bit how the processing steps are going, so you understand how I'm transforming the image. Here I was thinking about different ways of how to interpret the sky and how to play with light on it. So it's generally, I'm just playing with light and shadow on each surface separately, so I can recreate what I have in my mind. At some point you can go back to film pack and intensify the effect or make it darker, brighter by using different film, a different texture. And at the beginning, at the end, but something that is nice to do is to go to film pack and add some natural grain.
Julia?
They should be generally what I'm doing. Now, I think I'm a bit late. I'm over my time, so everybody's trying to get rid of me right now. Let's take a few questions now, and maybe I could show you something more if I forgot something or if you're interested in some other things.
Okay, the first question is, which camera and lens combination do you use the most?
I think I have two combinations that I love most. It's my wide-angle lens, 17-40, and my tilt shift, my 24 tilt shift, 24 millimeters, and 5D Mark III, a Canon 5D Mark III that I'm using most of the time. I also use a Nikon. I'm shooting both, but the Nikon is a crop camera. I'm using it for getting further away, and the Canon is for getting better quality, and because it's a full frame, it's dealing better with long exposure and with noise. Because the noise has to do with the also with the quality of the sensor. This is why it's not only because the sensor is bigger, you have more pixels and things like this, but you have a better, the camera deals better with noise or other problems that may appear. So I'd say for architecture, you need a wide-angle lens. If you shoot Canon, I would say the 5D or full frame, it's 17-40, or there's another one that's 16-35 or 36. And for a crop camera, for Nikon, for instance, I'm using the 10-24. That is a very good one, and generally a very good lens, very sharp and great colors.
The next question is from Thomas. He asks, what's the best time to take your photos?
Hi, Thomas. When you get up. So if you're not a landscape photographer that needs to chase the sunset and the sunrise, there's actually no specific time. I mean, you don't depend on sunrise or blue hour or things like this. You may get better photos then, but when you convert to black and white, this is not so important. The important is the quality of the light, and maybe you get some reflection, some softer light in the at sunrise or at sunset, but it's not so important because you will anyway go afterwards and use your software to add a lot of things to this image. So you can deal with even the worst light by if you have something in mind and by using software and getting to what you want. So don't worry, you don't need to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, so Thomas.
So I guess this goes into one of the previous questions, which was, this one is from David, who's asking, are tilt and shift lenses necessary for your personal style?
Hi, David. They are needed for the quality of my images, actually, because as you can see, if you have a wide-angle lens, you can use viewpoint to straighten verticals, and you can use different software to recreate whatever. But the thing is that a tilt shift lens is first a prime. The tilt shift is only created as a prime. You can't find tilt shift as a zoom. So from the beginning, a prime lens has a very, very good quality. You can see this if you shoot with a tilt shift and then compare with other lenses. You can the difference is sometimes it's really big in quality. So besides except for the fact that it's showing it's helping you with verticals or with if you want to work with blur, it's the quality that is added by such a lens, and that's why they are so expensive. It is needed for my style, but it's not necessary for my style. I mean, I could create these things with other lenses also.
Okay, so the next question is from Jose, who's asking, how do you get the deep black skies in your photos?
Hi, Jose. I think I just showed that it's about having a good starting point. I mean, converting your image to black and white with a software that can do from the beginning, darken the sky from the beginning, and then you start working on it and work topically in each part of the image by enhancing this, increasing this darkening by using gradients, dodge and burn. Sometimes you can use curves, but I'm not very fond of them because they are changing the image in general, so you don't have so much control on this. You can use also, when you have a very complex tonal chart, use luminosity masks that are focusing easier on different tones, and you can tweak them. But this is something more difficult. The idea is that you start with a good base, with a darker sky or a brighter sky if you want to work in a high key image, and then build up what you need to create with the tools that you generally use for painting things, for drawing things in Photoshop.
Question from Dominique. Is the aperture choice very important?
Hi, Dominic. The aperture is important. First, the aperture is going to give you, if you use the right one, is going to give you the sharper image. It's known that every lens has a sweet point, which is mainly around 8 with f8 with f11, maybe till f13. And where the lens is the sharpest. So the best is to try to work with this. You have the depth of field that you need in architecture, but you also have the sharpness, the best sharpness. Afterwards, when you go with a very small aperture, you start having everything is becoming softer, or if you go wider. On the other side, it's important because sometimes you don't have enough light, so you open it, even if you will lose a little bit of sharpness. But if you don't have anything else to do, for instance, you're traveling, you're in front of a subject for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you can't do anything else that make the best of what you have. So this is what I always try to make the best of what I have and not be interested so much in the conditions, but to get the best I can with the conditions I have. So you may open up the lens more and get more light in it and create your exposure the way you need. So what is going to give you the aperture is going to give you depth of field and sharpness, both of them. This is its importance.
The next question is from John Claude, who's asking if the combination of the 3 softwares, Photoshop, Lightroom, and OpticsPro, actually does is it actually necessary to have those 3 to do what you do?
For me, it is, but this is my workflow. I can just explain how I personally work. Someone else may not even want to hear about Photoshop or may want to hear about DxO. But I think that these 3 softwares are going to give you the most control over your image, and it's up to you how much control you want to have over your image. If you want to have a limited control, or you have to have a full control. And each of these programs has something that the other is not doing so well. For instance, DxO has all these things built around cameras and lenses that is going to give you the best sharpening in the image, and to create the clarity you need, to remove the noise and everything like this. That is going to be, maybe you can recreate something close to it in Photoshop, but you'll need much more time and knowledge, and you don't know if it's going to be very correct. One thing is that all this thing it's starting to be expensive, and this is something to have in mind, especially if you're a hobbyist photographer. But if you want the best quality, and if you want to invest in it, this would be my recommendation, to work with the 3 of them.
Okay, so we're pretty much running, we've run out of time for the webinar. So, and plus that was the last question, so it kind of ended perfectly. Julia wanted to give you an extra thank you for coming tonight to share your knowledge and your experience on your workflow as far as working with DxO to get your photos to the way that they are. If you guys have any questions, feel free to use the question panel. If not, you can find us on Twitter as well as Facebook. We wanted to thank you guys again for joining the presentation tonight. Keep shooting, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you very much also from me. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and if you need more help or if you want to ask some other questions, I'm open to dialogue. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.